Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Liberty City, Miami is known for producing a lot of great talent, whether it be Moonlight director Barry Jenkins, one of our next guests from 2 Live crew, Uncle Luke, and lots of professional athletes, including our other guest, Chad Ochocinco Johnson. The New Stars documentary series Warriors of Liberty City focuses on the athletes from their younger days. The show follows a group of young athletes and their families as they not only strive to become the best players they can be, but also strive to live with dignity in a tough American city. Let's take a look.
Liberty City.
Nothing is given. Everything is earned. Do something. Be remembered. Do nothing. Be forgotten.
Let's make a statement, man.
Fighters in the place stand up.
Some of the best have come from Liberty City.
They all come through here. Devonta Parker, Samari Rose.
Believe you would never ever stop us.
Uncle Luke starting football in Liberty City gave us a way out.
My dad, he played for Liberty City. My uncle played for Liberty City, and my brothers played for Liberty City.
We expect to be here 29 more years. That's what it's about. It's a family.
Do it for the glory.
But the program was about more than football.
Glory.
You know what it did? It kept us out the street.
I ended up losing my son. Couldn't believe it.
Most of these houses over here got shot up.
Just want to get us a place where the kids don't hear no gunshots. That's what we're working towards.
When we started football out here, the gang members just backed up because their little brothers and sisters were out there. This became sacred ground.
These coaches was more than coaches, they was more of mentors to us.
So I can teach these kids about what it's going to take to make it out of there. Because I know what it took not to make it out. So I can tell you what not to do.
Full speed.
My family, that's all I got.
So I tried my hardest to make sure I'm here.
I ain't leaving. They saying we scared. Y'all scared?
No coach!
Y'all scared?
No coach!
I tell my son, the world's not gonna give you anything. When you make a mistake, what you do?
Try not to make a mistake again and, like, work hard.
Before the community had this, we really had nothing.
Let's go, Warriors! Let's go!
I don't get paid for the coaching. It's about sacrifice for the greater good. We have work to do.
Think about how far we came.
Without the Warriors program, I could have easily been another statistic.
Day by day. Get better and better. Till we can't be beat. Won't be beat. Never gonna stop. Never give up. When we win, won't be ball up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go, Warriors!
Everybody, please welcome Uncle Luke and Chad Ochocinco Johnson. Fellas, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on this incredible series. Beautifully produced, beautifully made. I mean, it's something that you've been a part of for so long, the Warriors of Liberty City. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to watch the episodes of this series and see it depicted so wonderfully.
Yeah, it was, you know, when you're putting something together like this, you know, it was difficult to watch it, you know, because the way we shot it and the way it was produced, it wasn't just your regular cookie cutter youth football, whatever it may be. You know, we wanted to go in depth into the lives of these kids, you know, of our program. And I think we accomplished that because, you know, you see these blindside stories, you know, all those type of stories all the time. You know, we wanted to be able to show black men, you know, doing for their kids and wanting better for their kids. Black women wanting better for their kids and not necessarily some person that's not from the community coming in and saving their lives. It showed a community saving the lives of everybody in there and the kids as well.
I imagine it also showed you a part of their lives that sometimes with these kids you don't get the chance to see because you're working with all of the kids. You're not working with them specifically when they go home. And sometimes I imagine the coaches are, but not to the degree to which the documentary filmmakers might have been in terms of once they chose the families they were going to follow.
Yeah. That's why it was so difficult for me to watch every episode because I had, you know, obviously I had to watch them because I'm an executive producer of it. It was difficult, you know, because you see a little kid like George and you see him running around the park every day when we're at the park, but then you don't know what George has to go through in life and the other kids that they have to go through in life. I mean, we know the stories of Benabee and the Benabee family and the dad. We know the situation the dad is in, but then you don't see those intimate conversations that he's having with his dad, that's incarcerated, and how his mother actually feels about that situation and the things that he has to go through. So it was that's why it was difficult for me to watch.
I used the word dignity when I introduced this, and that was one of the things that I loved about the show, is that it wasn't just about the football program. The football program, in a lot of ways, gave the children a sense of dignity, which gave the parents a sense of dignity, but you also see them in their everyday struggles trying to achieve that same sense of dignity that the football program gives them, and I thought it was a very well-rounded, beautiful way to approach working class lives in America, which is a rarity these days, I think, in the way that we approach them. Chad, how did you get involved with the series, and what did you want to see from the series when you first got involved with it?
When I got involved, I started out in Liberty City, the first and second year before I went on to high school, and I was glad that something came along that gave me an outlet, because during my era, during my time, it was a war zone, big time, and, either you're going left, which is the streets, or you're going right, which was sports, because it wasn't no down the middle for me. I'm not an academic scholar. I'm just going to be honest with you. In order for me to sustain and live the things that I dreamed of, it was only one way to get it. It was either to the left in the streets or to the right. And, through my support system, which at that time was my grandmother, kept me on the right path. And along with the father figures that I was able to attain while a part of Liberty City back in the days, I was able to get out. It wasn't as good as it is now, because the resources and the exposure is a lot different. So sometimes a lot of people that were on that same track as me, they faltered, to the wayside. And I was just fortunate for what Luke was able to do, and those people that were part of my support system along the way. What I really like about Liberty City is we always get to see the finished product of these athletes. Once they already made it, then they tell a story. This is what happened. But this is so raw and authentic, and it allows people to see, like, man, they going through the same thing I'm going through. It's possible. You can make it out, And it's going to encourage a lot of people, man. A lot of people that, you struggling, so are they. And you can make it. It's possible.
Do you think that there is a clearer path for young athletes in Liberty City now than there was for you then? That if they follow this path on this side, they could potentially get out, whereas for you, you were just kind of seeing where it went?
Oh, it's most definitely easy now. Technology, you have these huge brands, these huge entities behind them, pushing them, making sure, and the exposure is unbelievable. So something like this, the scouts will see kids and remember this documentary from years to come, and you so and so from, okay, and you get opportunities that way. So it's gonna be huge.
Luke, when did you start the program?
Actually, 29 years ago.
29 years ago, you started this program.
29 years ago.
And what made you start the program?
Well, I mean, I was a kid. I grew up, 5 blocks away from Charles Hadley Park in Liberty City, where our program is, and I was bused to Miami Beach to play high school football. Organized, not high school football, but organized football. We had no organized football in the neighborhood. So I would have to, go to the school at Ida Fisher on the beach, and then eventually end up in Miami Beach Senior High. And I always said while I was riding across the bridge every morning that if I ever get 2 cents over my lunch money, I'm going to start a program in my own community so the kids, my neighbors, they won't have to be bused everywhere else, and we only see each other when we're playing a football game against each other. So, when I looked at it like that, and at that time, on Miami Beach, you had to be off the beach after 6. You would go to jail if you're African American. It's not like it is right now. So that was another thing that inspired me, saying, look, I don't want no other kid to have to go through this, by being put in jail, because I got put in jail a couple of times because I wasn't off the beach at a certain time.
Was that just the rules for being on the beach, or was that kind of an unspoken African American men?
That was a rule for South Beach. South Beach back when I was a kid in the 70s.
Specifically black men.
Black men, black women. You had to be off South Beach after 6 o'clock, or you go to jail. Just that simple. Obviously the rules change now, but as it went on, But that was the situation right then. And I always, just said, if I get 2 cents over my lunch money, I'm going to start a program and be able to, have these kids be able to stay in the area.
And so now 29 years ago, when you go back to Liberty City and, or if you were still sort of living around Miami and Liberty City at the time, and you decide to start that program, how did the community initially respond to you? How did people around respond? Because I think 29 years ago, you're for the most primarily known for
the bad guy.
2 Live Crew.
I was a bad guy.
Well, a bad guy to some. I mean,
some.
Hilarious and wonderful to a lot of others like me. Like what was it like? What was it like when you get back? You go back and you're like, I'm going to start a youth program.
Man, let me tell you, it was overwhelming. I mean, when I first started thinking about it, a guy named Sam Johnson, he had a baseball program already at the park, and he came by and said, look, I want you to sponsor the baseball program. And I said, well, if I sponsor baseball, I want you to help me with the football. So at the same time, we sponsored the baseball, and then I went out to the park and saw Chad and Edie Bowen and some of the other guys running around on the field, and I was like, hey, man, y'all dudes, what you think if we put football out there? Because I wanted to know if the kids really wanted it. And once we started it, I mean, the first sign-up day, we probably had about, 600-700 people. It was just, we had 2 teams at every team because it was something that wasn't going on in the community at that time.
So you were part of really the inaugural group of kids to join. And what was it like in that at that time?
We were excited. We had no outlet. We had nothing else to do. There was nothing else to do as a child. Nothing, like literally, so it gave us an outlet and kept us out of trouble. I mean, not that we were getting in trouble at such a young age, but still, there was nothing for us to do. And, having that program come along, man, it steered many of us in the right direction.
How much did you want the program initially off the bat to be not just about football, but helping steer the kids in a different direction that their lives at that point may not be steering them towards?
Well, I mean, at that time, it was more about being able to have these kids who live next door to each other, be able to stay in the community and not be pulled from every other area. See, Liberty City is the greatest. It's like a diamond mine when it comes to football. It's the best football players in the world are born there, raised there, and created there.
Why?
So why? It's just in the water. It's just in the water.
Like the Dominican Republic in baseball, essentially, is what you're saying?
No different. No different. I mean, and the thing is, even when I was a kid, my next door neighbor would be playing in Hialeah. I would be playing in Miami Beach. Another friend of mine would be playing in Cutler Bay somewhere. And we would see each other on the weekends. They were just plucking us from the area. And so, I just said, hey, look, we got to keep these kids right here, and these kids be able to, see each other and be able to play with each other and be able to raise a family together and have much more camaraderie together. That's what it was really all about at the beginning. And once we saw it was an overwhelming, support for it, then we started thinking about the single parents that we were helping out, the grandmothers, those difficult situations, and the gang members who were gang members and their little brothers and sisters that would be at the program and be safe for those moments. And then, we went into the educational part of it because we felt we had something great. It was about now education. You had to have a 2.0, 2.5 to play in the program. So, we just elevated the program every year.
At what point in the 29 years was it obvious that the program had become kind of sacred for the area?
When this guy was on TV catching footballs, when you see a young man like yourself.
Were you the first to make it? I mean, I guess so. If you were part of the inaugural cream, you were the first to make a pro to come out of it?
Yeah.
Once I made it to the NFL, I was every bit of Liberty City. I didn't change. I didn't conform. When I made it, I had a mouthful of goals, and I sounded crazy, obviously, to continue to keep that same image of where I'm from. I mean, obviously, I groomed myself a little bit along the way, but I was, a complete savage based on my background and chose not to change or conform.
Wow. And so Liberty City felt very represented by you?
And I did it very well.
Amazing. So now, 2020, I imagine you started shooting this 28 years in, and you're 29 years in now, right? So you started shooting this about earlier on last year. Did you work with the documentary filmmakers at all in terms of picking the characters, or did you want to leave that to them? I know you're an executive producer as well, but being someone who's working with the kids as well, you don't want to sort of seem as a favor choosing or anything like that.
Right. I definitely had to stay in the background of it all. Me and Evan, we established a relationship when we did the first documentary that we did with Vice that got Emmy nominated. And we wanted to see it. Oh, right. We wanted to see it bigger than what it was, and so that's when we went on this crusade of trying to find a home for the series, you know. And obviously we found LeBron James and Maverick Carter, and they, you know, came along and produced it, and Stars, you know, picked it up and shade shot it and all that. But I was right there every step of the way, because I know sometimes, you know, unfortunately in this business, they'll depict some people will come in and say they want certain things, they want to shoot what your vision of the program is, and then before you know it, you'll see something totally different, you know. So I kept those creative rights where I'll be able to have conversations about what's being shot, who's being shot, when they're being shot, what you're talking about, because under no circumstances I was going to let anybody inside, you know, our house with our kids and our families be able to do what they want to do. Because I mean, just keep it 100. We're not about ratchet, and we wasn't about to have a ratchet program, because you see so much ratchetness on TV when it comes to African Americans, and I wasn't letting nobody come into our kids' families and put anything like that on, which is is no way this program is real deep. And Liberty City is not just only in Liberty City, Miami, it's in Liberty City in New York. Liberty City is everywhere in the United States of America.
Well, that's so interesting, because you know, at the same time as the series is incredibly positive, and at the beginning of this you were talking about the black parent and having a sort of positive depiction of that, you still don't shy away from the struggles. And there's a character in the film who at one point decides to live in his van, you know, with the intention to better himself, to grow as a man a little bit. And it's a fascinating storyline, and his strength and resolve. And while the decision may not be, in my opinion, the best decision, there is a strength and resolve to what he's doing that you can't help but just sort of be a bit in awe of. I mean,
yeah. Like I say, it's you know, the Evan and the producers and everybody did an excellent job of deciding the characters as they were shooting them. You know, we kind of knew who some of the characters was because we already did a documentary. But then the unique part of it that, you know, is Warriors of Liberty City, and that's our program. But it's really the Warriors of Liberty City. It's those parents, because so many times, you know, in this day right now, you don't see stories about black men who are there for their kids. You don't see stories. You see, you know, unfortunately, see a blindside situation where the black kid was pulled from a struggling black mother and moved on to white neighborhood, and all of a sudden he's saved.
We still see those stories that are essentially a producer or director wants to tell a story of the black community, but they're afraid that a white audience won't be into it unless they give put some sort of white character in it, so you get a kind of Dangerous Minds or Blind Side.
Right. But in this you see struggling black men trying to hold their family together. And you see black mothers holding their family together even though the black man is struggling. And you see these kids going through it. I mean,
strong women.
It's some real, just like his grandma. She was strong. You know what I'm saying? And you see these men coming together at the park, you know, to comfort, you know, these kids. And I mean, it's deep. I mean, I tell you, I get emotional when I talk about it. And I get emotional every time I look at it.
Chad, what was it like when you made it to the pros and your grandma got to see you make it to the pros?
Man, I never forget that day. That feeling, there's nothing that can replace that feeling of seeing that name go across the ticker at the bottom of the screen and getting that phone call from that NFL owner. And she was happy. She was happy. I remember her crying, and her words were, "I'm not crying because you made it. I'm crying because I can remember all the what you put me through to get to this point." And I put her through hell. I put her through hell, and I was happy to make it. And I was so excited, like finally I made it. You ready to move? She wouldn't even move. I never forget. And she stayed right in Liberty City, same house. I tried to upgrade. I tried to modify. She said, "Don't touch my, you know what?"
You can curse.
Listen, we're in 2018. You know, God rest her soul. My grandmother passed in February. She still has her old furniture with the leather, with the plastic over the couches. Remember that?
Yep,
Remember the plastic over the couches back in the days?
Yeah,
She wouldn't let me change anything. Once money came in or started rolling in, she refused to change. And so I really adapted to that. And once I made it, I didn't really change much either.
That's incredible. I got to go to audience questions about this, but I am curious. We said 29 years ago you were the bad guy, right?
Yeah, they said I was a bad guy.
They said you were the bad guy. I don't think you were.
But the people in Liberty City know I was a good guy.
Yeah, I'm curious if in the 29 years Tipper Gore ever came by Liberty City and saw the wonderful things that you did for your community and maybe gave you a little, sorry about that.
But you know the first donation we received was from Janarino.
Really?
Yes, $500.
Wow.
She made the first donation to the program.
That's incredible.
Yeah. You know it. I never told anybody that.
No Tipper?
No Tipper.
Come on, Tipper. You owe an apology. Let's get some questions from the audience.
Hi, Chad. Hi, Uncle Luke. I just want to say thank you so much for thinking about your community. And I wanted to ask you, what impact has being around these children had on you? And do you both continue to foster relationships with them since the documentary?
Well, for me, the impact for me has been tremendous. I'm not around the program as much as I used to be, being that I have 85 kids myself that I have to take care of. So I have track season, I have football season, but when I can, I do stop by at times. I used to come to the games when my daughter used to cheer, but now my daughters are older now, running track, they're in school and doing other activities. So I'm not around as much, but I do try to get to the games as much as I can. Now the football season has started back.
Yeah, as far as me, our co-founder, he passed probably about 4 years ago. So when he passed, then I ended up taking over the program. It was going through some difficult times, and we just reorganized it, revamped it with a board. And these kids here, George and them was the first group when I took over the program. They were coming in at the age of 4. And we always call them the diaper boys when they come in at the 4 and 5. So I'm there every day. I'm there, I leave. My office is right around the corner. I end up at the program, and I'm there, fighting to get the funding that it needs, fighting, for these kids, the different things that they need on a daily basis, because it's not really easy. A little grant here and there don't get it done, and so we constantly have to be creative in being able to take care of those 400 or 500 kids on a year-round basis.
One more silly 2 Live Crew question for you. Sorry. What's it like when the kids find out who you are and find out some of the lyrics to the Crew songs? Do you ever get those instances?
No.
Really?
I'm old. I'm older than them. They're like, "Oh, no, Coach, your music is garbage." I'm like, yeah, and then we had those conversations about
I can't
about
imagine
mumbling.
a 12-year-old boy isn't still fascinated by 2 Live Crew lyrics.
No. I never had one of them say, "Hey, go."
Really?
No.
Wow. If I had a coach when I was 13 years old and I found those lyrics, they would never hear the end of it from me.
They don't tell me because they know they'll be rolling.
Hi. First of all, I want to commend you guys for everything that y'all doing for the community. It really means a lot. My question is, how did you guys come up with doing the documentary, and what do you hope that people will take away from the documentary besides crying? Because I know it's going to be some tears and stuff.
Well, I want people to know that it's just not Liberty City in Miami, but these are the same struggles that kids are going through all around the country. It's like Liberty City is in every city in America, and that's what attracted LeBron and Maverick to the actual documentary and the concept of it all, because they understood those same struggles just like Chad and everybody else, because they too were kids that had to be taken care of by the coach, and they had to go home to a single parent household situation. So it's not just a Liberty City thing, it's much more of a universal thing, that there are some other coach, whether it's in Detroit, Harlem or somewhere, going through the same thing, whether it's basketball, football, they're going through the same thing, helping these struggling young men in a struggling program to become successful and find a way out. We just use football as a way to lure you in, to really educate you, to get you your educational standards up. And then, we extended the program to high school, and now we're sending majority of these kids to college, using football as a tool or any other sport. So we got a unique situation, and we pass it on to everybody else around the country who calls up and asks about our program.
Are you hoping people will give back and ask how can they get involved and do more to help?
Yeah, it's really important to do that. I mean, that's the best way. I mean, like money, money helps, but to volunteer your time, and be there, be a mentor for one of these young ladies. What we do, we have a seniors part of our program that's in the same area, and I figured out, look, we always talk about having a mentor for the kids. I know it's a lot of young mothers that's in our program. What we did is we take the seniors, and the seniors adopt and mentor a mother who has a young mother, because the seniors got all the information. So we try and do those type of things within the program, and we try to spread the information around to other programs as well.
Chad, what do you hope people take away from the documentary?
To keep going. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. I mean, same thing you're going through, you're going to see in this documentary. No cookie cutter, no editing. This is raw and uncut. We going through it. And that's I got chills. when you see it, and this is what I like about the documentary and the way it was put together so well, it shows the good and it shows the bad. And it's way more bad than it is good, but it sheds light on both halves on what everybody's going through. Like, people going through it out here, man. Outside of what we know. I hear the stories all the time. Miami, LA, Houston, no matter where you're from. And this, what it will do, what you've seen it, man, it's just going to make you want to go. Just keep going. There's hope. There's hope.
Absolutely. Warriors of Liberty City premieres on Starz September 16th. And I think people can watch it on the Starz app September 9th, I believe. Everybody, please give a big round of applause for Uncle Luke and Chad Ochocinco Johnson. Let's hear it.
Thank you.